I didn't coin the phrase, but I've heard it explained by someone on the show, and it makes a lot of sense. I think this is more of a terror film as opposed to horror. I think it's an absolutely new approach to the genre.
And roll.
Rolling. That's beat.
Action.
In your classic kind of sense of a horror film, you often envision the house on the hill, or you're standing back and you're seeing this place from the outside.
Marker.
This story is very much, I think, reversed. It takes place inside the house, looking out. Bertino built the architecture of the movie into the screenplay. I could tell what kind of house he had written this for. I could tell which way the hallway turned and where the bedrooms were and where the kitchen. He had a very visual sense. One of the very first discussions were that it would be a ranch house built in the 70s.
To me, it was about trying to ground the movie as much as possible so that the audience would believe that world. And so we tried to find a house that your brother could have lived in, or your father could have lived in, you could have grown up in. And the way we lit it, the colors we picked were all trying to find something comforting, trying to find something inviting so that we could destroy that.
It needed a metal barn. That's what was written in the script. And the barn needed to be here, and the house needed to be a certain distance from the road. And we needed the front door here and the garage here. There was a lot of elements that was written. And it was interesting enough to pull up in front of this house and hit the brakes and go, that's it. The barn's where it needs to be. The house is where it needs to be. The trees are almost characters in themselves. So we were very fortunate in that. And I think it certainly did help propel the design of the show.
The inside of this house is really small. Definitely not enough room to shoot a movie in. And so we found a warehouse nearby, built the interior to just how we imagined it to be.
The entire thing need to be flexible. All the walls need to move. We have to be able to allow the camera to go anywhere it needs to go. So the entire set is collapsible.
This is a very live room. It's 600 feet by 235 feet, nothing but concrete. So when you hear when they slam the door, it echoes for about 15 seconds of decay time before it stops. So that's creating great challenges for the editorial team. When they scream, it really reverberates. As long as there isn't another dialogue on top of the scream, they can deal with it.
I had never really screamed before or been in a situation of fear. Like, I had never been home alone and heard something that was so scary where I actually screamed or went to get a knife and went to look. Like, I've actually never experienced that before. So we've been shooting in order, and suddenly James was gone, and there I was, and going with the knife towards the back door to the man in the mask, and I sort of screamed. And I was so nervous. I wanted to die because I had no idea what was going to come out of my mouth. I thought it was going to be like nothing. And this huge, ginormous scream came out. I think I terrorized everybody, was really scared, but now they're used to it. It doesn't work anymore.
The PA department spent, half their time banging on things and running around the set because we'd built the entire house and we wanted it to feel like if she hears something out in the backyard, then there's something in the backyard. And so she was able to react to it on a real level. And sometimes we'd throw things in a completely different direction just to get that surprise that was on her face, because if you know a scare's coming, it's not always as scary. And so we worked as hard as we could to get those screams to be as real as possible, sometimes by throwing her curveballs and coming at her in ways that she didn't expect.
Turn again, Liv.
Can you do the noise?
Yeah, we're gonna do a noise again.
The director, Brian Bertino, came up and said, we really like to give some motivational sounds, not just music, because there's lots of awesome music in this, but some sound effects, chimes, wind chimes, the alarm going off, this kind of stuff, and loud. He wants the reaction to it, because it's stark, it's startling when you hear it. 41 Gringo, take one. So I called a friend of mine to do all the pre-records for me, and he sent them out. We dumped them over to mini disc so we can play them anything at the drop of a hat. We can do both music, the sound effects, whatever, and even do a mix and match. So it's fun for me because there isn't a lot of dialogue in this, but it's also a little extra work. But we're on the stage most of the time, so it's very laid back, easy going, and Liv has just completely risen to this place that I don't know if anybody wants to go voluntarily, you know, to this terrified place. So it's been really cool.
I thought it would be more emotionally draining on me than physical, and it's actually been the opposite of that.
Oh my God, it really hurt myself.
Mentally, I'm okay, and I'm sort of trucking through, and I'm actually loving it and excited about it, but my body's just a mess. I have like all these burns and sores from rubbing against the floor.
Up, shirt up.
She just took a beating, but kept fighting, and I think that it helped her character because the more pain that, you know, on some level she felt, I think it was easier to connect into what Kristen was probably going through.
I probably run like over a mile a day on set. Just before every take, I have to like go out and do my laps. They're like, okay, we're running. And then they wait until the last second and they call rolling and we kind of like run in just to get out of breath and be sweaty and have that kind of, that energy. Because you can't just go from sitting here talking now to being that terrified.
You feel good about blooding?
I feel great. Let's do it.
All right, let's blood.
Blooding Glenn, blooding the floor.
Vinny, our makeup artist, who is unbelievable, has done the prosthetic that goes on my face a couple of times, and he's got different prosthetics. He's got one that's the fresh kill prosthetic, which is meant to look like I just got shot.
Prosthetic starts right here, and it runs along around here. And then it goes behind the ear, because this is a fake ear. It looks like part of the ear was blown off, too. So at the angle they shoot, you don't see that it comes out. It looks very much just like there's a hole right in his head. So it cheats it. It looks like he got point-blank shot, and then he's got some little shrapnel holes in it and everything, too.
The other one is the, as he likes to call it, the Mike is going bad prosthetic, which means I've been, you know, laying on the ground and dead for about an hour and a half, and I'm starting to literally go bad. Like my skin is starting to deteriorate a little bit. So it's pretty gory.
This side is flat against the floor. It looks like the blood is all pooling down towards the skin. So all this is losing its blood and drying up. Some of the skin is just starting to go bad and bruise, and all the blood is pooling at the lower side of his face.
The process is basically Vinny puts on a prosthetic piece that was cut to match my face. I had a head cast done. Then he blends it so that it looks like the rest of my face. It takes about 3 hours to get it done. So it takes a little bit longer than you would almost think, but that's just because Vinny wants to do a really good job.
It's a good day. Ow. What a jerk.
The car crash we did last week, the two actors, Liv and Scott, I doubled them up with some stunt people. They're in the car, and Pinup's character drives up in this truck and turns out the light, and then all of a sudden the car is rammed by the truck, and we ended up doing it 3 different times. The first time we hit the car with the truck, we hit it about 15 miles an hour. And the second time, we moved it up to about 25. We wanted a little bit more damage. And the third time was about 20 miles an hour because the car had already been pretty much totaled, and we just needed an in-car camera view of it. It was really a violent crash, and it's what we wanted.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
Thanks, man.
Pleasure, man. Great to meet you.
We're
Cool
gonna do
guy,
another
man.
one.
No.
Oh, man. Oh, yeah. Thank you
so much.
Thank you.
It looks amazing.
Good deal.
Go tell him.
Better not end up on the cutting room floor.
No, that we can't.
The idea of entertaining people is really important to me, but I think you can do it in many different ways. Action. I hope that people are emotionally challenged by this movie and saddened and frightened and terrified but to me it's about connection. That's what I want. If I can connect with an audience so that they feel like that they went through this, that'll be the most important thing.